Jessica Pegula aims to expand Players Box podcast. Talks Aryna Sabalenka rivalry at AO. Pegula launched the podcast with good friends Madison Keys, Jennifer Brady, and Desiree Crouchick during last year's US Open. Melbourne, Australia. Talk to any group of friends and they'll tell you they've considered launching a podcast, but Jessica Pegula's group kept that promise, celebrating their first full season of The Players Box after a successful 2025 US Open debut. Yeah, it has been really fun to grow in that space, the number 6 seed told me during her Australian Open Media Day press conference. I think we're excited to kind of start a full year around the slams and big tournaments because we really only launched during the US Open and then there's really not that much going on in the tennis world after that. So, we're trying to grow it this year, have more gas, kind of base it around depending on where we are, events in the world, things going on. So, I think that will be really exciting. We're excited. Pegula partnered with fellow Americans and longtime friends Madison Keys, Jennifer Brady, and Desiree Crouchick to form the WTA's answer to Nothing Major, another tennis foursome led by former ATP players Sam Querrey, John Isner, Jack Sock, and Steve Johnson. We saw the guys start Nothing Major and we were kind of like, man, if they can do it, we can figure this out. Like, come on. Seriously, she said last summer. I think being friends also has really helped us, especially with all the traveling and, just living this lifestyle that we live. So, it's actually been really fun, kind of therapeutic for us, and I guess we're just kind of sharing that with the rest of the world. The players have posted a steady stream of episodes since late August, celebrating their 20th episode with Coco Gauff serving as their first ever guest. That was really fun, said Pegula, who will play her first round against Anastasia Zakharova. We filmed a lot, she added with a laugh. We are going to record again tomorrow. So we'll have some content from actually being here in Melbourne, which I think is cool. I don't know, it's exciting. I don't think any players have really done that before. So hopefully we can give some decent insight to kind of what's going on and how we're feeling, as long as we can get our schedules on the same track I would say is the hardest part. But we'll see how it goes this year. But we're excited to have a full year of basing it around a lot of different tournaments. Pegula plans a full schedule on the court after a strong finish to the 2025 season, reaching the US Open semifinals and the Dongfeng Voya Wuhan Open final to qualify for the WTA finals, where she played one of the best matches of the season against Aryna Sabalenka en route to the semifinals. The pair practiced together on Friday. Obviously, she has beaten me more times, said Pegula, who lost 3 of 4 meetings to the world number 1 last season, but I think we tend to bring out some really good tennis in each other. Matchups like that just happen. It happens to be for me and Sabalenka, we tend to have some pretty crazy matches. Really high level I have always thought. It is fun. She challenges me. Pushes me to figure out how to become better. I think at the end of the day that's kind of what I try to take away from some of the tough matches. Even though I feel like I've had some chances to win them, and beating her on a bigger stage would be something that I am trying to strive for, especially at big tournaments. I keep running into her, but I think it is also a little bit of a good problem to have. It means I am putting myself in good positions against the best player in the world. While a win over Sabalenka in Melbourne would provide plenty of podcast fodder, Pegula will have to wait until at least the final to have a chance against the 2-time Australian Open champion, drawing instead defending champion and co-host Madison Keys in the 4th round. Jessica Pegula, expanding the Players Box and embracing rivalry under the Australian Open sun. Jessica Pegula has always lived in a space between worlds. On one side is the grinding, lonely reality of professional tennis, a sport that demands obsession, repetition, and resilience. On the other is a growing curiosity about life beyond the baseline, about conversation, storytelling, and giving players a voice that extends past match statistics and press conference cliches. As the Australian Open unfolds and the Melbourne heat bakes both bodies and ambitions, Pegula stands at a crossroads where competition and creativity intersect. Her Players Box podcast is no longer just a side project. It is becoming an extension of who she is as a modern athlete, thoughtful, outspoken, and deeply aware that tennis players are more than ranking numbers. As Pegula eyes the expansion of the podcast, she does so with the same intentionality she brings to her forehand preparation. This is not about branding for branding's sake. It is about control. About telling stories on her own terms. At the same time, her rivalry with Aryna Sabalenka continues to sharpen. The Australian Open has become one of their shared stages, a place where power meets precision, emotion clashes with calm, and mutual respect quietly grows beneath competitive fire. For Pegula, these two narratives, the podcast and the rivalry, are not separate. They are reflections of the same evolution. A voice beyond the court. The Player's Box podcast was born from a simple frustration. Pegula, like many players, had spent years answering the same questions after matches. How did it feel? What went wrong? What will you do differently next time? The answers were often honest, but rarely complete. There was never enough room to explore the complexity of life on tour, the mental toll, the friendships, the doubts, or the humor that stitches together a season. With the podcast, Pegula flipped the dynamic. Instead of reacting, she initiated. Instead of being interpreted, she listened. The name itself, Player's Box, suggests intimacy. It is the space courtside where family, coaches, and close confidants sit. It is where emotions are raw and unfiltered. Pegula wanted to bring fans into that space, not as spectators, but as guests. Now, as she talks about expanding the podcast, her vision is becoming clearer. More episodes. Deeper conversations. A wider range of voices, not just top-ranked stars, but double specialists, injured players, rising juniors, and even those nearing retirement. Pegula understands that tennis history is not written solely by champions, but by the collective experience of everyone who endures the tour. Creativity, for her, is not an escape from tennis. It is a survival mechanism. The grind of the calendar can hollow players out if they are not careful. Airports blur together. Hotel rooms feel identical. Matches blend into each other until wins and losses lose their sharpness. The podcast gives Pegula a sense of authorship. It reminds her that she is not just participating in the sport, but shaping how it is understood. Melbourne, where rivalries harden. If the podcast represents Pegula's reflective side, her rivalry with Aryna Sabalenka represents something more elemental. Fire versus steel. Force versus finesse. Sabalenka plays tennis like a storm, loud and unrestrained, her ground strokes cracking through the air with violent intent. Pegula, by contrast, thrives on balance and clarity. She absorbs pace, redirects energy, and constructs points with